Done? Yeah. Oh my god. What if I bring this down this way? Boom. Let me clean this. There we go. Okay. Nice. Boom. All right, we're ready. So today I just want to try and finish this animation as quick as possible. God, I have to like submit it by tomorrow. So it's basically today I need to do all the drawings and I need to do all the coloring as well. So basically now or never. Fuck my life. I finished with the smooth animation for this girl's face. I'm gonna play it so you see what it looks like. So that's basically her saying, "Oh, I'm ready." You see, it matches. That works, right? All right. Over here, she was having a battle with this guy. Let's go all the way here. So she's running from him. She sees him, and then she jumps right here. Sees him, jumps, then starts with the swings, sends a whole lot of slashes towards him, and then that breaks up the energy field he has on. Boom, explosion, and then he comes to get her. She gets saved by her brother. Let's skip ahead. So yeah, the energy field gets destroyed, but then boom, bad guy realizes that she's right here. She's too slow, but her brother can teleport, so he comes in right there and then touches her and then they teleport away. But yeah. I need to do the rest of this and try and finish this today. It's either today or never. And I prefer it to be today. Okay, I'm gonna talk less now and I'm just gonna focus and do my work. All right. I see I have one person in there, but I'm not sure. I can't really see who it is. Okay. All right. Time to time to lock in. Time to lock in. All right. Boom. She does that. Lightning, then wind effects, then. Okay, I need to work on this part here. Actually, no. I'll make it one of these. There we go. Copy, bring here, and paste. Okay, I need to remove this part of the leg. Well, not this part of the leg, this part of the background. Remove. Oh, well, no. Let's go to the drawing. There we go. Right here. Remove, delete, boom. Copy and paste so you can see what that looks like. Nice. And then I'm gonna go back here and just gonna make that hair move a little bit more. There we go. Bit of that and there. Okay, that's a bit too thin. Nah, we're right. Good. And then for the neck, then for the face, hands and everything. And then just holding it right there. And the sword in her hand right there. Boom, boom. Nice. There's another here as well. Oh, no, that's a bit off. Actually, no, I think that was alright. I'll drag it up here. I don't really do a lot of live streams, so talking this much is actually making me tired. Like, fucking hell, I hate talking. Jesus. But, actually, that's a lie. It's not that I hate talking, I actually like talking. My issue is, I just feel self-conscious sometimes. Even though I know There's nothing wrong with my voice, but I'm pretty sure that's a normal thing to feel, right? Yeah, it's a very normal thing to feel. My goodness. All right. I think I'm actually going to be streaming all day today. Like, actually, all day. Like, from now to like 12 in the midnight. Because I actually have to finish this today. It's either today or never. So, oh my God. And I need to hurry. Because usually my process involves a lot of drawing, then watching what it looks like, then drawing again, then watching what it looks like. But for today, I need to hurry the hell up and just oof, and just draw. I shouldn't check too much because the thing with me is I already know what I want to make. I already know how it's gonna look in my head, in my imagination. But my issue is I doubt myself a lot, so I need to like rewatch what I've done multiple times. Like if this scene, I would watch this scene like okay. Let me show you the scene that I actually watched a lot. It was this scene right here, this one. So basically, she had done this slash in the air. This one right here. Vroom. Big fire, boom, explosion. Then you see the explosion far back. This scene right here with the bricks falling down. I watched that thing so many times because I wasn't sure how it looked. I wasn't sure if you got the feeling like with bricks breaking up like that, you want to feel like they're heavy when they're falling down, but you don't want to make it too slow because it looks like it's floating in the air when really we need these bricks, this chunk of matter just to drop. We need it to drop, but we need it to drop with weight. We need it to drop with weight as well. We can't just have it boom and then that's it. So I really, really rewatched this one because I was trying to get the weight thing right. I think I'm still struggling with it a little bit, but I don't have time to focus on that. Plus, let's be honest, when you're watching anime, you don't really look at these kind of things for that long. What you really look at is the characters themselves. Like for this scene, I feel like people's eyes will be more concentrated on what this character is doing than than what's happening in the background. Even though this is the focus of the background. Plus, as you can see, I've made some like smoke effects, like boom, 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 and then you have like this little puffy cloud growing around the bricks. Now, if you look at that, that's gonna cover majority of the bricks. So uh, it should hide some of the lack of detail when it comes to the explosion, the smoke. But I mean, then again, I could use color to emphasize detail. I could do that later on. Okay, let's keep it moving. Also here, I looked at this explosion because I wasn't sure how I was gonna make it. So the explosion is coming from below, right? It goes up, and then it hits the cliff, and then boom, you get a lot of smoke. Then you get less smoke, then a bit less smoke, then a bit, just a tiny bit less, and then you get clear skies. And then the energy just shoots, and yeah, you get this effect where it's like it's beaming, like constantly beaming from below. Oh my god, I'm so ill. I'm actually not even ill. I'm just my nose is filled with snot right now, and I don't know why. Maybe it's because I'm cold. Who knows? Oh, this one. Yeah. Um. Let me. I actually don't want to talk too much. Oh my god, I need to do this. I need to just carry on. Oh, okay, let me speak about this part. So, I really, really like Naotoshi Shida's style. Naotoshi Shida is an animator for One Piece, for Toei. He's done a lot of Dragon Ball Z, he's done a lot of One Piece stuff. And Dragon Ball, yeah, and Dragon Ball Daima. But anyway, he has this style that has a lot of fluidity and a lot of movement. So, like this, ooh, something like that. That's what his style is like. It's this swinging motion kind of vibe, you know? And I'm trying to mimic that here. I'm trying to see if I can get that. If I can figure that out, it will make my work a lot quicker because I can make actions, repetitive actions that look like the character is doing a lot when really it's only a few frames and I'm using a lot of After Effects and I actually can't explain it properly, but it would make my work easier. And if you watch the stream, you would get what I'm talking about. Uh, how can I see the comments? Because it's not showing me if anyone joined at all. Because I'm currently live streaming. Yeah. I can react to the fan. Okay, now I see. Okay, so it shows up and then it disappears. Got it. That's very different from the way it works when I'm live streaming horizontally. Sorry, vertically. Because now I'm streaming horizontally, right? The comments pop up and then they disappear. So I don't know how to fix that. Let me put top chats, live chats, all messages. Okay, let me make them visible. There we go. There we go. Okay, that's much better. Uh, Love One Piece Forever. It says, good news. I found out why it's taking so long for me to write. Oh my God, why is it disappearing? Jesus Christ. Uh, Live chats. Show. There we go. Okay, let me scroll up. It says, good news. I found out why it's taking so long for me to write. Turns out you can't write everything all at once. Go figure. Okay. Yeah, that is true. That is true. You can't just write everything all at once. If not, you will get overwhelmed. Uh, once I, once go figure out. I curse fan realities and limitations. Law. You will. You will cross the competition. Ah, thank you, man. I hope so. Do you think you can react to other fan animations sometimes? Oh yeah, absolutely. I can do that. I like to see what other people have made, um, because it I don't know how to explain it. I like to see what other people have made because it allows me to gauge where I'm at in terms of my own skills. So if I can understand what someone else is doing and how they got a certain effect or how they got a certain um, idea, I can apply it to my own animation skill. Sorry, I can apply it to my own to the way I animate, and that should actually help me get even better. So I already watch people who animate, like fan animators. I already do that, but I'll definitely start reacting to them in the future. But going back to the writing thing, yeah, you can't just write it all at once. Plus, even as you're writing, you get new ideas constantly. You constantly get new ideas, and you always wanna like. Because for me, when I'm making my comic, right, every single week I get a brand new idea that is so freaking good, and then I try to figure out how I'm gonna implement that idea into my story. But the issue is sometimes you've already written out a layout, a plan for how things are supposed to work in your story, but it doesn't go that way because sometimes you just genuinely get new ideas that are better and you have to change everything. You just have to change everything now. But that's enough talking from me. I need to actually concentrate and do this shit. But yeah, One Piece Forever, it was nice seeing you. I hope you're alright, dude. I hope you're okay. But I'm gonna shut up now and I'm just gonna concentrate. Actually, I'm gonna play a video in the background so it's not too quiet. You know? 12. Oh shit, can't show you my password. Fuck. I mean, not gonna lie, this phone is like my second-hand phone, so even if someone hacked into it, uh, you're not gonna find anything. No one's gonna find anything. You're gonna see nothing. No nudes, no pictures, no money. No, I got no bank account details are on here. Law. After this, ditch Flipper Clip and get Clip Studio Paint. Okay, wait, Clip Studio Paint. Clip Studio Paint. Have I heard of that before? Let me Google this. Hold on. Let me go on Google Play and check if Clip Studio Paint is there. Um, All right. Okay. Oh wait, there we go. Clip. Wait, no, no, no. Studio Paint, right? Studio Paint. Clip Studio Paint. Okay, this one. Okay, but can you animate with it though? That's a real question. Can I actually animate with it? Live chats. Let's see. Uh, would you like some visual techniques to relieve stress and tension? Nah, I'm good. I'm good. Don't worry. I'll figure it out. Uh, after this, ditch Flipper Clip and get Clip Studio. But the thing is, does Clip Studio Paint actually animate? Because it says here, unleash your drawing and painting potential. If that's all they're offering, then I need more than that. I need Sorry, let me read this chat again. Uh, get a Patreon. I've actually been thinking of getting a Patreon lately. But I'm just trying to consider what am I gonna post on Patreon versus what I'm gonna post on YouTube. The simple idea I got right now is that I'm gonna if I'm posting on YouTube, it's gonna be like obviously the cut stuff. If I'm posting on Patreon, then it's gonna be like the full version where you can actually watch me react to like One Piece or something of that sort, like fully. But yeah, I'm thinking now like what else can I do on Patreon? Because that's a very basic thing to do on Patreon, you know. Anyway, let me look at this shit. Can I actually animate here, or is this some bullshit? Um, overall, a terrible app. No, okay. Let me look at these good reviews. It was very good for the first few months. The subscription is sure worth it. You can show da 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 da. But that was in 2023. I'm looking at 2025. Okay, 2024 review. Overall, not a terrible app. Oh, not a terrible app. I thought it said terrible app. But I really hate the new saving method that came with the latest update, which added a clip studio file to my computer files app. There is no way to save the project the way I used to, and it takes up so much space on my device. Okay, okay. Huh. Are there any more reviews? Hmm. Okay, all the other reviews are quite old. Every time I either try to import something from my files, go inside my you see, this is the thing. I don't want to face issues like this. I don't usually face issues like this with Flipper Clip. The worst I faced with Flipper Clip was that Flipper Clip kept lagging, but I realized that the way I can like avoid that was to like reduce my screen time and so it reduced the brightness on my screen, and then I stopped the it basically the thing that allows me to rotate the screen like this. I turned that off as well, and I was able to still do my work. But then I think Flipperclip did like okay, yeah, you're right. Every second does count for this. You're right, but oh yeah, I still prefer Flipper Clip. That's what I was gonna say. I still prefer Flipper Clip. But yeah, you are right. For One Piece, I need to stop talking and I just need to concentrate. So let's get this video up. So I can have something playing in the background. What do you guys want to hear? Should we watch some One Piece lore? Uh, One Piece lore explained. Um. Actually, I don't want to get spoiled on some stuff because some stuff I actually don't know. Uh, okay, what about One Piece? Devil Fruit explained. Calm. It's been a while since I've watched O'Hara. Let me watch O'Hara. Why not? Or nah, I'll watch O'Hara. It's been a while. My favorite One Piece YouTuber is between BDA Law and King of Lightning. Actually, I lied. It's King of Lightning. Ah, yeah. I like King of Lightning a lot. Like, a lot. Like, I'm subscribed to his Patreon so I can watch him react to, what's it called? One Piece on Sundays. Well, not on Sundays anymore. Now he does it on Mondays because of the time slot change. Okay, skip that. Boom. Okay. That's nothing new. All right, back. Actually, I'll keep her here. Can you see her? Shit. I love Aurora, but aren't you gonna get in trouble? Am I? Shit. I don't know. Does it copyright people? Um, I mean, then again, I don't want to say does he copyright people because usually YouTube's gonna do that for him anyway. Uh, I mean, okay, I'll just watch Bose. Fuck it. Or I'll watch some creepypasta. Yeah, that's which one creepypasta. Creepcast. Mm, video. I'm trying to see which one have I not heard from in a while. Oh, okay. This one gives Cthulhu vibes, so we can watch this one.
Read this story for a while now, and he's been like, oh, yeah, because I thought it sounds cool. But then he has that intro, so he did think it sounded cool this entire time. He just didn't want to show me enthusiasm for the thing I was interested in. That's fine. That's fine. We're reading it anyways. But yes.
Okay.
Today we are reading Dagon's Mirror.
I do sound like a baby, and I will always sound like a baby, and I won't apologize for it.
Gross. That's such a gross sound. Ugh.
Did you like
The
that?
story was written by Nick Lowe. It's hard to find any information about him because every time I search Nick Lowe, it just brings up stuff related to the songwriter. But it seems that the author, this story came out in 2024, so it's a little over a year old. He has this story. He has one called The House of Dead Gods, which sounds really cool. And another one called The Shambler in the Attic, which also sounds cool.
The Yamamba look like harmless old women, but are
What the
actually
fuck?
terrifying mountain yoke.
The Shambler in the Attic, which also sounds cool.
What is a shambler? Is shambling like when you like to shake, right? Like you're shambling.
No, like it's like a limp kind of like
I shamble.
yeah, like a slow, like you can't really walk right, but you're trying to like work over to something.
Yeah.
So it's like dragging itself around the attic.
A guy with gout in the attic.
Pretty much. So he has these 3 stories, and they're all recent. They're like the oldest one, The House of Dead Gods, is from November of 2023. So this seems to be an up-and-coming writer. So if this story is cool, you all certainly check him out, and hopefully Nick continues to make these kinds of things. But first of all, let's check out the story. It's got an 8.7 out of 10 on creepypasta.com, which is pretty good.
Do these even are the rating system on creepypasta.com, is it something to take seriously, I guess, you know what I mean?
Well, it depends. If it's a famous story, no. Because then people will vote it highly or lowly for the meme, right? Like Jeff the Killer's like 9 stars or something, right? Or was. Because it's funny. But if it's not super popular, then typically the ratings are more legitimate. Because people are rating it in earnest.
Right.
So if you go to like Binge Round, it's got like thousands of 10 stars because people are, being the people. But something like this having 8.7 is probably pretty close. Pretty close.
I mean, February 28th, 2024, last year upload.
Yeah.
My word.
So pretty recent, especially like older stories on creepypasta.com too have been around there long enough that people have like voted willy-nilly on stuff. But if it's this recent, most people who are still reading the website mean it, right?
I don't think so.
We'll see.
Nick Lowe, is he going to be, is he going to do H.P. Lovecraft justice? We'll see.
What's your opinion of like Lovecraft and how much stuff of his are you like familiar with?
I love Lovecraft. Love. I know I say Lovecraftian a lot. It's a fucking meme that needs to die on this channel, okay? I like saying it, all right? It's applicable in a lot of ways. I just want to say that, but I love it. Also, I love all of the Arkham House publishings. Like, there's a lot of great stuff from his publish house and stuff. A lot of him and his buddies, those are the guys who made the publisher with him. They published a lot of the stuff even after he died and stuff too. But there's a lot of great stuff from like the 50s and 60s and stuff.
I forgot that Arkham House was Lovecraft stuff originally, so I always think of Batman whenever I think of Arkham.
Yeah, I know. Arkham Asylum, I think that's been totally taken over by like Joker memes and stuff.
Yes, of course, yeah. The inmates are running the asylum.
I'm curious. I'm curious to see if he holds up. Is he going to maybe Nick Lowe himself is a little like H.P. Lovecraft. Maybe he's a racist man who's staying in his mother's house. I don't know.
This is great things to say about an author we're just now introducing to a large audience, I think. So very good. Good on you for that. I will say I like Lovecraft stuff a lot. I've made a video about Call of Cthulhu, which is his most famous work, but Lovecraft has all kinds of interesting stories and topics, and I really love the way a lot of his work gets adapted. Like, probably my favorite season of television ever, True Detective, season 1, of course, is like based off of like Lovecraft stories and theories and stuff like that. So it's all very cool.
Yeah, if you're not familiar, it's all very, it's the fear of the unknown. It's like ancient civilizations and people going mad, and it's like incomprehensible things that the human mind can't understand. Very influenced by his time in Providence and stuff, which is usually why a lot of the stuff is from the ocean. Very inspired by the ocean. And also, he was literally afraid of immigrants. That's like an actual thing.
Oh, he was deeply xenophobic.
Also, be sure to check us out on audio platforms such as Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Be sure to leave us a nice review there. It really does help. And goddamn, I am ready to get in with Dagon. If there's not fish people in this, I'm going to be furious. Better be fish people. That's all I got to say.
I hope there's fish people. I hope there is as well, buddy. We'll see. Or this could also be based off, now that I think about it, the old Old Testament god Dagon, but whatever. We'll see. Dagon, Smear, are you ready to begin?
Oh, I'm ready.
Uncle Marsh had always been the black sheep of our family. a thorn in my father's side, and a constant reminder of how corrupt and decayed our ancestral roots truly were. Sebastian Frederick Marsh was my mother's elder brother, a genetic throwback, a deviant. If the rumors surrounding him were true, a man acquainted with the most hellish of sins. His appearance was enough to make the most stoic of hearts skip a beat before its shambling gait. Flat-headed, thick-lipped, and possessing the largest, glassiest bulging eyes found in the sockets of any earthbound creature. His appearance, is this how you would describe me?
I was like, that's a fucking awesome description, actually. I love thick-lipped and possessing the largest, glassiest, bulging eyes. He's just like perpetually about to cry, basically. Just like wet sockets.
So, he looks like a giant fish.
Yeah, I mean, it would have to be like a giant trout or something.
Yeah, his appearance was nothing less than outlandish. He would stumble along the cobbled streets of Barton Village every Saturday morning in his weekly sojourn to the local stores. His journey caused his neighbors great unease. Passerbys would cross the street in an effort to avoid exchanging even the simplest of pleasantries with the man. I was particularly disturbed by my uncle's visage, as I unfortunately shared a few or more loathsome traits myself. Thankfully, however, these were less pronounced and shocking than those found on my uncle's grim face. My mother, too, shared what was known in Barton as the Marsh look, although her deviant features, like mine, were softer and even less obvious than my own. She got away lightly indeed, with large, watery eyes, her only obvious heritage of the tainted Marsh bloodline.
I wonder if this angle of this story is going to go into like a Teen Wolf vibe. You ever see Teen Wolf? The movie with
I haven't seen it, but it's about like the whole family's werewolves, right?
Yeah, or a guy like, I think it was like something to be maybe not necessarily puberty, but at a certain age he basically turns into a werewolf and he finds out that his like dad is as well, and so. And I'm wondering if this is going to be, I'm finding out that I'm a fish person.
So far he's saying that all member, or at least it's his mom's brother, right?
Yeah.
So his mom has some traits, and they're pronounced in himself, the author, but his uncle's the one that looks like a fish person.
Yeah, well, she kind of does too. She has
he says watery eyes.
The watery eyes, softer features, but I'm wondering if there's like maybe they transform or something. I don't know. The watery eyes just being a reoccurring theme makes me think that maybe there's something.
Uncle Marsh lived alone, tucked away in a rotting abode that lurked and leaned queerly at odd angles at the back of the gunner's cloth, a feral grotto that skirted the cemetery at the south end of the village. It was a lonesome stretch of sepulchre woodland, home only to the witch elms, the creeping moss, and my gloomy uncle. Many an odd tale was attached to the gunner's cloth. Strange lights, raised voices were often heard from the depths of the woods on those days leading up to the nights of Hallows Eve and Walpurgis. It was not unknown for local pets and occasionally even children to go missing, turn up dead on the mornings after those nights, when the frogs croaked loudly and the owls hooted their omens of warning. Yeah, I'm just not to immediately glaze this guy, but I love his writing style, at least so far. Like, it feels very fairy tale, you know?
Well, I mean, it's a clear homage to even Lovecraft. The way that Lovecraft does some very similar shit where it's like excessively detailed. Like, instead of just being like, it was a dark hallway, he's like, the crimson dark peered over. You know, like it's the same kind of vibe. And I feel like it's very intentional. It's nice. It feels it's nice whenever someone is taking material from somebody else, or like not material, but it's.
I know of a YouTuber that wants people to post his stuff. You could play. Oh, okay. Play science news. Everyone leaves. Lol. Maybe I can listen to the YouTuber some of the time, but right now I usually play some Creepcast or something else that I usually listen to. That just helps me work faster because then I can just, I can just do my work and just. I don't know how to explain it. It just helps me work faster that way. But what's the name of the YouTuber? I know of a YouTuber that wants people to post his stuff. You could play. Okay, yeah, I wasn't another YouTuber. I'm not gonna play it now, but I could check it out real quick. And then this one says, "Play science news. Everyone leaves." Yeah, I'm actually really into science. You'd be surprised. I'm really into it. Like, I want to be a doctor one day, or if not a doctor, like a scientist, like a astrophysics or something. But I'll I'll do that later on in life. Not right now. Not right now.
Inspired a story from Lovecraft, and then they include some of his mannerisms or some of the, you know, like it feels like an extension of his work.
It feels very genuine. Feels like it's almost, you know, like a timepiece. Like there is a story here we don't know about yet, but the author's determined to let us know it. And that's also kind of the joke with Lovecraft, right? That he'll say something as unexplainable or what's the one he says all the time, incomprehensible, and then he will comprehend it for 7 pages straight.
Yeah, I do think that you're. I think saying fairy tale also fits this very well too, because it does it does have kind of like a grim fairy tale.
Yeah, especially like at the cemetery, at the gloomy witch elms on the edge of town. Yeah, it's very like
setting up a little folk tale of like, oh, people are known to go missing, whatever.
Yeah.
You're watching a toothbrush play Billie Eilish. But did you know there's a YouTube music app where you can also listen to the EDM version, the ska version, and of course, the...
Yeah. I remember when I was very young, my mother issued me a warning to never enter the gunner's cloth, despite my uncle living there. And I often wondered just what witchcraft was being played out in secret underneath the skeletal trees. These warnings were ubiquitous among all Barton children, and with good reason. Before I was born, a local child had been found dead in the woods, half submerged in the black slop that had once been a stream passing through the cloth. Little was done about the matter. It was assumed that the child had fallen into the muck and drowned. Every Barton resident was quick to attribute a more sinister conclusion to the life of little Maggie Hagen. Despite the macabre reputation, or perhaps because of it, the whole area was the haunting ground of young boys during the summer months, and sadly, and with great embarrassment, my uncle was seen as something of a local boogeyman by my peers. As a result, he suffered relentless taunting at the hands of Barton's children. There was precious little else to do in the village during the school summer break, and the taunting of my uncle became something of a local sport. Boys would prove their mettle by hurling rocks at the windows of the gunner's cloth cottage where my uncle resided, or knocking on his door only to flee as the frog-faced resident cautiously answered their call before sinking back into the dark of his home.
God, how sad. Jesus.
It's depressing. I'm like getting carried away with the flowery language, but at the same time, it's like a guy looks ugly and they're like, "It's an idiot," throwing rocks at his window and stuff.
I mean, but very true to childlike harassment or whatever.
Yeah.
Freak! And like, ee! Like run off.
What does every kid do when they see a guy with a disability at the grocery store?
Point and laugh. Point.
They're just like,
why is it like that?
Mom, why does he look like that? Mom, what's wrong with him? Mom, why doesn't he have what happened to his other arm?
Has it said also, I was going to ask, has it said, what year is this? I don't know why, but I keep picturing like 50s.
It hasn't said a thing about it yet, I don't think.
No,
right?
it hasn't, but I get just like the way of like being like a guy living down in the, like, I don't know, like by the marsh or the bog or whatever. I don't know why, but my mind is putting me in like a 50s era kind of thing. I don't know why.
Yeah, well, he said village, so village makes it sound older than that.
Yeah, European, therefore older.
Yeah, but he also said high school. So, right? He did say high school? Did he say high school boys?
I'm pretty sure. But that's also what made me think of like high school guys that had like varsity jackets.
Boys.
Oh, okay.
He just said young boys, yeah. But he says, okay, that's what he says. He says summer break. So it has to be a time period where schools have a summer break and also a village. So it feels almost anachronistic, right? It's almost like you get modern details mixed in with like old Grimm's fairy tale stuff.
You know who does that kind of well too? Not to sidetrack it. The movie It Follows feels very ambiguous in its time. You know what I mean? That movie feels like it could be in the 70s, 80s, 90s, or you know, it's like it's so ambiguous. And I think that's what makes it so evergreen too.
Another movie that does a great job of that is The Substance.
Oh yeah, dude, definitely. That's
Because everything's 70s, everything's 60s, like all the cars,
Yeah.
the furniture, the store. But then they pull out an iPhone. You know?
Yeah, it's all super Stanley Kubrick Shining kind of like homages and stuff. So everything feels like it has that 70s color palette and stuff. A lot of the oranges and browns and stuff. You know, that's another thing too. I think I like with sci-fi is whenever it feels ambiguous. Like it almost feels like older technology that's presented as new.
Yeah.
Anything that feels like analog. I think it's just it's going to stand the test of time more. You know, I really hate when shit's like super sleek and clean. It's like give me the fucking bulky, wiry shit.
You know, it's like what the best example of that? The original Alien.
Oh yeah,
like the cockpit in there of just all the dials and buttons and like the
Give me dials and buttons, dude.
Give me those buttons. I want to slam my hand into them in here.
I want to press a couple buttons.
I love pressing buttons.
Light up the button. Let me press it.
I love to touch stuff all the time, whatever it is.
Oh, absolutely.
I love touching things. Being the nephew of Mad Marsh meant that by proxy, I too suffered from the attentions of my uncle's tormentors, and I tried desperately to make myself invisible in and out of school. I succeeded in this endeavor to such a level that I had successfully alienated myself from everyone outside of my family in just a few short years. One year, on Halloween, the onslaught of abuse directed towards my uncle reached such feverish heights that it culminated in a planned mass egging of his home. Only one boy in town possessed enough bravado to see this task to conclusion, however. Jamie Birtle. Man, this does feel like such a fairy tale we're reading about. That's great. It was Jamie alone who entered the gunner's cloth on that dreadful night, chest puffed out and a box of rotten eggs held confidently in his hands. The boy finally returned, many hours later, to the circle of children crowning the edge of that necromantic woodland. Waiting in anticipation for their champion, he was forever and irreversibly changed, transmuted, transformed, and left naught but a shell of what was once a lively child. He staggered out of the woodlands a dumb and silent specter. Poor Jamie Birtle, the terror of all children younger than himself, said nothing about what he had seen in the dark that night, nor would he ever speak a single syllable again his whole miserable life.
Fuck.
Eventually, the glassy-eyed mute was taken away from his parents and moved to Byron House, home for the mentally disadvantaged. There he stayed for many years, banging his head against the wall of his cell to a silent, alien rhythm until fate gave him the opportunity to escape his confines and leap to his death. Exactly 13 years since he first lurched out of the shadows of the wych elm trees.
I love all of that, dude.
That's so fun. This is a ton of fun. I'm bought in already. So he goes out there and he comes back. Just the only description he gives us is he's glassy-eyed and mute, right?
Yeah, he goes out to the woods. We don't know what happens. Probably stumbles across something, sees something, whatever, unexplainable. If it's Lovecraftian, then it's probably, I mean, it could be anything, a statue, like an obelisk, anything that is just like, that has such unknown, horrible powers, you know, that it drove him mad, or like it destroyed his brain or his psyche or something.
Yeah. My uncle was questioned about the incident, of course, but denied ever seeing the boy, let alone speaking to him or causing him harm. This event left me even more isolated from the other children. Before that night, they might have included me in their torments, but once Jamie had been forever silenced, they avoided me completely. I very rarely saw Uncle Marsh in person. Occasionally, he would show up at a family get-together or function to make a token effort to remind us that he still existed in this world, only to disappear just as abruptly as he had arrived. My father, in particular, despised the man. He hated the appearance of his brother-in-law, and he hated that his wife and son were kin to the man. Most of all, he hated the way Marsh collected queer objects, strange, moldy tomes. Marsh was something of a scholar, at least of a certain sort, and loved to devour information from his astounding collection of books. His library consisted of a mass of sprawling grimoires and papers scattered around his living room in no discernible order. Chaotic, crumbling mess of ancient and esoteric knowledge. Many of those decaying, musty volumes were written in languages unspoken in the isolated villages and hamlets of northwest England. Archaic German, French, Latin, Greek, scripts so wholly alien in structure that they must have been impossibly extraterrestrial in origin. other bar stranger items dotted the cramped rooms of the cottage that Marsh called home. Warped, bent skulls, exotic stuffed birds, crystals shaped in geometric arrangements that were maddeningly complex. This was the legacy of my Uncle Marsh, a repulsive, isolated, semi-antiquarian, semi-human recluse, obsessed with the forbidden and in love with the wicked and strange.
It's like the guy lives in an oddity shop, and he himself is also like a
An
functioning, exactly, like a functioning piece in this museum.
At the edge of a cemetery in a swamp on the corner of town, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, just
Like a Resident Evil house.
It really is. Well, you know what kind of made me think of was the Resident Evil Village house a bit. Like out in the swampland, you know, and stuff.
You're talking about Resident Evil Biohazard.
Biohazard, my apology. Yeah, Biohazard of just a weird family being out in the middle of this swamp, except it's one guy, and then just to think of like, you know, going out there, the smell of like moldy paper. Like I would imagine the whole house is damp constantly.
Yeah.
Just weird shit like that.
Yeah, it's like it's constantly humid there. It's like a swamp bubbles up. Everything stinks. Yeah.
And I don't know how familiar you are with Goosebumps, but dude, my mind, all I can think about is Werewolf Fever Swamp.
Oh yeah, I remember that one.
Yeah, I just think of like the weird hermit dude living out in the woods. I love that episode too because the dad's just like.
Let me read this. One Piece best manga. Yep, it is. It is.
What is that?
Well, I would say One Piece is like top 3. It used to be my number 1, but then I read Berserk and I was like, oh shit. So it's for me, it's like Berserk, then One Piece. But I can't lie, even saying Berserk number 1 kind of hurts. That hurts. Because in my soul, deep in my soul, I know for a fact it's One Piece. One Piece is just, whoo, elite.
Scientist. He's like, okay? And he's like, the old man, the old crazy son of a bitch who lives in the swamp, just leave him alone. He's like, well, he grabbed me and put me in a net today. Ah, he's eccentric. He's an
That's
old
what
man.
they do. Look, they're old. Do you want me to not put people in swamps and swamp nets? That's
Well,
what
son,
they're
you're in his swamp. You might get netted a couple times. It happens.
Look, he bought the net. Do you want him to not use it?
Okay, so I guess we're just not supposed to use it. Okay.
If you want him to not use it, you should have talked to him before he bought the net.
Yeah, then I think that you should have sent out some kind of memo, or you buy the net from him. If you're
Yeah,
gonna be that inconsiderate.
look, if you're willing to make a deal, that's fine, but just ask him not to do it. I
He
feel
keeps
it's a little
kidnapping me.
unfair. Okay.
Or now you're being a bit of a crybaby. I love those '90s, the '90s parents and media where they're just like, God, you're being irrational. Stop, you're being so needy.
It was at the tail end of like parents recognizing that children can die.
Children can die, and they can also like have a functioning mind. That's like they don't just tell like lies. Every parent thinks that all their children are just like Archie or something like, or some like comic strip character.
Miller's comic, but Jim Miller's mom.
Yeah, I'm gonna go paint a fence. You're like, cool. Get the fuck out of here, Archie.
Yeah, stupid idiot. But it's like around like the 80s and 90s, it was like, man, people keep taking these things. Like, we should maybe do something about that.
Yeah, no shit. Well, maybe the hermit living in the switch. In this case, the hermit ends up being a pretty cool dude, but still creepy, weird.
Yeah, in real life, you should probably call a CPS.
No, I would not be messing with the hermit living in the swamp.
No, absolutely not.
No,
yeah, I'm with the kids. I'm throwing eggs at his house. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I'm just gonna piss him off to where he comes and fucking slits my throat in my sleep.
I would love an excuse to use my stand your ground doctrine to eliminate this freak from the earth.
You threw eggs at my house, just like driving a knife into the kid's stomach. He's like, this is a bit excessive.
All these memories and thoughts flash vividly in my mind as I sat opposite the stern, cold face of Mr. Fisher, a family's long-suffering solicitor. Just seconds ago, he had impassionately read out aloud the contents of my uncle's last will and testament, which a man I barely knew and had good reason to despise had left me all his earthly and unearthly possessions. Uncle Marsh's death had been as singular and strange as his life. In the early morning of July the 24th, 1954...
Oh my god, bear trap moment. Absolutely fucking bear trap moment, holy shit.
What? What do you mean bear trap moment?
Didn't they say, I said it was going to be in the 50s.
You know what? That is a...
Bear trap.
Okay, that one was pretty good. That one. I will say I was not getting 50s at all. I was getting like 1800s.
Really? Did you actually think it was going to be like 1800s?
Something about the reading in the early part made me feel like this was like an old village.
I mean, dude,
like,
it reads like fucking Hansel and Gretel or something.
Yeah,
like, I mean, I agree.
that's what gave me the idea of like Grimm's fairy tale.
Yeah. I mean, it has that vibe.
Until he said high school, or not high school. He said summer break, and I was like, okay, maybe not then. But you saying 50s, I was like, no way. And that, all right, you know what? You can have this one. Fine, whatever. In the early morning of July 24th, 1954, he had stood naked on the sands of Seascale Beach, Copeland, Cumbria, and walked slowly and deliberately into the waiting maw of the churning Irish Sea.
Oh, we got 2 people. Oh, damn.
Flat footprints in the sand.
Hello, let me see.
Were all that had remained of the man.
Yes.
Top chats.
He became a fish person.
See, I love the idea of it's just like, it's time. He's like,
All right, let's go back to this.
He walks his big, goofy, flat foot ass out.
So I've already explained what I'm doing to One Piece Forever, so I'll explain it to you as well. So I'm basically in this competition. I have a deadline for tomorrow to submit this shit, and yeah, I think I'm gonna stream all day until I finish this thing. Cause if not, whew, God, I can't. Oh my God, I just have tomorrow. I need to submit this shit by tomorrow. This is what I've done so far. I'm working on the fluidity of this girl's face over here. Looks good, huh? I'll play it. There we go. That looked great. And I'm also working on a few things like, okay, I'll play this one from here. For example, like this is one of the fight scenes. Oh, wait, let me make it large. There we go. So this is one of the fight scenes. Lol. One Piece forever. Relax. Relax, bro. Relax. But yeah, that's one of the fight scenes, and this is the main bad guy. I'm working on his facial features, working on his eyes over there. Boom, bam, bada boop bap. And then you get our main character running away, and then the bad guy comes over the hill, lightning everywhere, and then over here chases her, gets her there, and she turns around to attack, does a lot of swings, sends a lot of like slashes and stuff, and then his force fields kind of breaks, and then the bad guy kind of like powers up a little bit and comes for her, but then she gets saved by her brother. I'm gonna like skip ahead there so you have a better look. Right about here. So he breaks out, tries to come for her, boom. You can see he's very big as well. And you got the brother over there. He can teleport. So one tap touches her shoulder, well, her face in this case, and boop, teleports. As he teleports, you can see the explosion in the background there. Boom. And then they appear over here. And then you get a little dialogue moment over here where it's like he gets angry because like his sister almost dies, and then she gets, don't forget to like, by the way, like the stream. Yeah, and then she goes, "Oh, I'm ready." That's the dialogue in that area, in that section. Like, "Oh, I'm ready," and boom, they power up again. Where do we power up? Let me see. Oh, right here. So her swords that she has, they have like this star effect to it. Boom, and then the aura like literally starts leaking out of them. So if you see, this side is like red, right? And on this side is blue, and it's literally clashing in the middle like this. And that's what's going on. He can teleport, so he leaves first. You can see he leaves first, and then she has like super strength, so she jumps off the cliff, and then it's like a boom, and then this little blue thing over here, that represents the shock wave. And you see that? Bam, boom. And then she goes and she does a little star thing. I thought that would look cool for when she's moving really fast. Like, you see what I mean? Boom. But yeah, that breaks up. I'm thinking of putting like an impact frame on this plane frame right here, because there's nothing here. It's like boom, nothing, boom. So I'll put an impact frame there. Smoke effects, etc., and then yeah. But right now we're working on her. So after she jumps, right? After she jumps, this is what we're gonna go to next. So that's what we're working on right now. Right here. Boom. Okay, so I need to carry on and I need to shut the fuck up. Cause the more I talk, the less work is being done. I need to finish this shit by today. Okay, actually, let me look at the deadline like properly. Because it says today, yeah, April the 25th. That's the deadline. So submission deadline April 25th. They don't really specify on the time. That's my issue. So does that mean like I have to submit it today, like 11:59 p.m., or does it mean like after the 25th of April, you can't submit anything else? Like that's what I'm confused on. Uh yeah, nothing else is being explained. That's it. Okay, how about this side? When you finish animation, post the social. Da, 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 da. No. Then go to contents platform. No, that's not what I'm looking for. Yeah, they only talk about when the winners is gonna be announced. They don't talk about the actual timing of what dictates of a late submission or an early submission for April the 25th. So I just to be safe, I want to finish it as quick as possible. Uh so that I can get into the competition, right? Oh, also I want to show you something real quick. I'm working on a Zoro versus Lucci fight. I saw the trailer for next week's episode for Zoro versus Lucci. Dude, that shit looks so good. That looks so good. So I need to finish this fight as well. Probably on Saturday or Sunday. Uh, because I would like this fight to come out first before before the original fight comes out on YouTube. Because if I'm just this is the thing. Oh, that looks so good as well. Like, come on. I can't lie. Sometimes I fawn over my own work because I'm like, shit, like that actually kind of looks cool. It kind of does. But I'm trying to complete this. I think I'm gonna make this a lot more quicker, a bit more what's the word? Like when I'm gonna color it in, I'm not gonna do too much. There's gonna be less detailed. So for example, this is what I wanted it to look like. Oh, this is Kizuru, by the way. Chasing Luffy. Yeah. I like this little idea. That's what it's gonna look like. Kizuru and Luffy fighting. Um Let me skip ahead. Come on, skip. Right here. So this is what this was supposed to look like. Huh? This. I made the floor green because I forgot they were fighting in the clouds. I forgot they were fighting in the clouds. But this is what it's gonna look like. But I think I'm gonna have to change the color scheme and make things a bit more simple and abstract to avoid being too late when it's time to post this. But anyway, let's go back to the other one and let's continue. There we go. Yeah, you're right. I just need to get back to it. You're right. Okay, let me play this video back.
Out to the beach. He's like, actually, he's probably like gasping, water, like amazing into the ocean. But I love that. People are like, oh, he just killed himself and he like went, walked into the ocean. But it's like, no, he probably like discarded his shit and swam off.
You know, this feels like a lot to me. This feels like it would be an Ito story.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Ito himself is, a super Lovecraft. So much of his stuff is Lovecraftian. Uzumaki and all that kind of stuff. It's all fear of the unknown, uncanny.
I can almost see in my mind this being like an Ito comic, like a large glassy-eyed man who, like, you see him transform into a fish as he's walking.
If it was an Ito story, it'd be a girl. And it's like that's her neighbor. He's like he'd walk every day. You see him like walk around. Jump scare.
I'll be right back.
But he was
Let's go to the toilet.
It's a lot like that vignette from Uzumaki, the kid that becomes a snail.
Yeah.
Very similar. Although a body was never found, he was declared legally dead some years after and had left instructions with Mr. Fisher that I, his only nephew, was to receive all he had ever owned. The significance of the location of his demise was not lost upon me. Decades ago, my family had lived in the town of Seascale. The sea had always been in the family's blood. Many a marsh had took to the waves as fishermen, sailors, and even pirates. At least if one was to believe the various myths and legends surrounding us, but the marsh blood was tainted, or so the story said. This is, dude, I feel like cozy right now. Like
You know, it kind of
I
feels like
feel
a
like
sea
good.
shift too.
Yeah, like the way it's worded and like, my family comes from the sailors of the sea, and it's like they got a curse at some point that made them like into fish people or whatever. It's like, this is Jim.
He said the Irish Sea, right? Where did he say? Churning Irish Sea.
Yeah,
Waiting
that's the sea you
mob.
walked into.
Yeah. So, is that? Which I mean, I'm dumb and I'm fucking super dumb. Where is the North Sea at? Because that's like the one where it's like you do not go near that shit, right?
The North Sea, I think that's the same area. I'm pretty sure.
Well, I was gonna say if it is, I'm wondering if it's connecting to that to where like that's like the most treacherous. Which obviously he's not like I know that you have to go out a bit, but still, if you're like localized a little bit near it, I didn't know if it was gonna connect with that, but
It might be. I'm honestly done to it as well, especially.
I'm surprised you've never done a video on like the North Sea. I feel like that would be like a idea up your alley. All the crazy, mysterious shit that goes on out there. Like the, you know.
It's I kind of touched on it before in like other videos I've talked about, like the because a lot of that relates to like the idea of like the wool, like the lost country and the ice wall and stuff like that, and all, you know, maps and things like that. So I've kind of touched on that a little bit, but not specifically the North Sea. But yeah, you're right. That would be something interesting to look into. The original branch of the family had come to England from the United States, where a great deal of my relatives had lived in the decaying
Hey, we are back.
town of Innsmouth, Massachusetts. There it is.
There's your tip of the cap, sir.
There she goes. For those that don't know, Innsmouth is a city that's mentioned a lot in Lovecraft's works.
God, I'm cold.
Is where
Shadows
Dagon
of
comes from,
Innsmouth,
even. The fish people.
Innsmouth itself was a nest of horrid myths and repulsive witch lore. We had come to Cumbria under a cloud of dark suspicion and dread, chased out by the locals as warlocks and werewolves, forced across the bitter Atlantic and finally ejected upon the shores of Old Blighty. Whatever was that had... this language. Whatever was that had segregated us from the other branches of the family.
God.
For many a marsh still resided.
It's so cold right now. Jesus Christ.
My grandparents certainly would not discuss the matter.
England,
My
man.
own family had made the move away from Copeland and into the small village of Barton, Cheshire, due to a chance meeting between my mother and father during a blistering hot summer holiday, which my father had chosen to spend by the seaside. Oh, he was by the sea and fell in love with a mermaid? Is that where this is going?
I'm wondering if it's going to be something like that.
Yeah.
It has almost a vibe of like the, it almost has a vibe of, no, I mean, it's not, I was going to say Siren. I'm really,
Similar,
I love like pirate folk lore and stuff and like sea creatures.
Yeah.
You know, it's so weird. And also, it's so hypnotic and creepy, like the songs they sing and shit.
I always like it because, for one, sea shanties are beautiful and stuff like that, but I always like these, like pirate lore and stuff like that, because I'm terrified of the ocean. So I love the idea for one of monsters being it, but I also love the kind of person that would like best it, that would want to conquer it. You know?
Yeah, that's why. Yeah, so many like stories like Moby Dick or all these like crazy like fishermen like not antagonists, but these men driven mad by these things in the ocean. Because I agree, I think you're a psychopath if you don't have a fear of the ocean. If I'm being honest.
Absolutely, 100%. It's terrifying. But that's why there's it's so cool to have stories of people like wanting to sail to it, like, you know, conquer it.
Would you rather spelunk or would you rather go deep sea diving?
That's a horrible question.
Isn't it actually? You know, the only thing I can do is
it depends on the intensity of either.
Well, I would say you'd have to go the most intense, which I mean, I would have to say deep sea diving because my fat ass could not fit in any hole. But I was just gonna say like. The openness, there's something so scary about the openness of the ocean, but I don't think
it's terrible. I have nightmares about it. Like, I think the bottom of the ocean is the most terrifying concept in the world to me. To you of what the doctor had offered me for the books, and too much.
I kind of like disconnected for a bit.
Full of Earl Grey upon hearing that his
Down
son
to
was to become
There we go.
He seemed overjoyed at the news. Not for any dreams of personal gain. He had always been the non-materialistic type. But at the life such money could provide for me. I knew that he was also secretly happy that being related to Sebastian March had actually paid off in the end. And the money was at once a source of sweet revenge for him, and an ointment to smooth over the wounds left by their various clashes. My mother's reaction was somewhat similar to my father's, but I could not help but think that it was all a put on, an act, and that she truly did not want to see my uncle's library in the hands of a stranger. If she had but voiced her concerns, I may have changed my mind, or at least sold perhaps only half the collection left to me. I informed her that I intended to keep my uncle's diaries and personal notes, but she simply shrugged whilst nursing a lukewarm cup of tea. My father made a comment about how they would best be used to kindle a fire, and quickly moved on to the topic of what I would be doing with the money that was soon coming my way. I'll admit that when the day came for the doctor to collect the books, a cloud of regret had fallen over me. Despite the ludicrous amount of money that he was offering, I felt somewhat reluctant to part with my uncle's collection. These feelings of doubt, however, were quickly dispelled as a series of brisk rapping penetrated the quiet of my usual afternoon routine, and I opened my front door to welcome my visitor. Dr. Glass had an appearance wholly shocking and disturbing to me, despite my familiarity with the grotesque and misshapen. He was both painfully thin and shockingly tall. Despite being bent over at the shoulder, he still towered over me by a clear foot. He had the complexion of a fresh corpse, blood drained and transparent, while his head was crowned by a thick head of bushy hair, raven black despite his obvious advanced age. Clothes, too, were as distinct as the man himself, for he clearly dressed in the manner of a gentleman many decades removed from the current age we occupied. These fine clothes were, however, somewhat lost on the man, as his willow-like frame caused them to hang off him like folds of dark, dead skin. The scarecrow of a man stood at my threshold, nodded, and extended a withered, wrinkled hand which I met, almost in a trace, with my own. I tried my best not to be repulsed by the doctor's winter-cold skin and long nails as our hands clasped, but I feared that a modicum of my discomfort must have been made apparent to the man as a cruel smirk broke across his features as I stepped aside to let him in. I watched as the vampiric form of the doctor entered my home, and another wave of anxiety washed over me. For the man whom I had just invited into my house was so far removed from what I imagined a cultivated millionaire scholar to look like, that I half fancied cruel hopes being played upon me. I had already prepared the collection, and they stood on the table in my living room, wrapped in brown paper and string. Upon seeing the pile, the doctor turned to me with his pale gray eyes and spoke to me in a voice so frail and hollow that I had to strain to hear the shriveled syllables that emanated faintly from his thin lips.
Would you mind, sir, if I took the liberty of confirming the contents of the packages?
I nodded automatically, as if hypnotized by the man's voice, and watched in fright as he glided over to the table and used his long, gnarled talons to cleanly remove the brown paper, barring him from the prize that lay underneath. I watched the grim spectacle of the doctor using his sharp nails like some kind of organic letter opener, and then greedily scooping up the books in his hands, flicking through their contents with the hungry gaze of a wild predator. Happy with his lot, he turned to me and, without even looking me in the eye, sharply withdrew a folded check from his waistcoat pocket and handed it to me. I unfolded it and was once again taken aback by the amount written upon it, along with my name, quickly placed it in the top drawer of my study desk with an obvious, avaricious hilarity. Our business seemingly concluded, I regained my senses and offered the doctor some refreshment, which he took thankfully as he singled out a seat in my lounge and with great effort lowered his mummified body down onto. As I poured us both a cup of tea, he continued to plump through his new acquisitions with a look of pure joy. It was a look that seemed out of place, and it was disturbing to see it grow upon his cold, rigid face. We talked at length for several hours, during which time he made several inquiries as to where I had acquired my collection, and I felt that he was trying his best to gauge just how much I knew about it. Being one of the world's worst liars, I couldn't bring myself to deceive the man who had given me such a huge fortune for some old books, and decided instead to tell him exactly where I had acquired the collection. I told him all about my uncle, Marsh family, and our Innsmouth origins, along with the legends surrounding the gunner's cloth and the horrible fates that have befallen several of Barton's children. The latter of which
Okay,
not
got it. I'll
entirely
do that
free
then.
with
I'll
interest
end the
by
stream so I
killing
can
off the
focus.
collection of
Actually, no, the reason why I was doing the stream was because
catalog.
I wanted to accumulate more what's it called? Um what's that thing called on YouTube where you have to like reach a certain subscriber amount and then watch hours. Yeah. I'm trying to accumulate more watch hours by live streaming. That's what I'm doing. Actually, let me even Google that shit real quick because I'm not even sure if that's right. Let's see. Can you gain more watch hours from live stream? Increase your YouTube watch hours. Each minute a viewer watches your live stream contributes to overall watch time. Okay, perfect. So that's what I'm doing. So I'm still gonna concentrate on this, but I'm just gonna keep the live on so that my watch hours can like keep going, increasing over time. Forever One Piece, you don't have to be here the entire day. I'm really, really actually appreciative of you being here. Like, I actually appreciate you being here right now. Like, just the one viewer, I'm actually I'm actually quite glad. But what was I gonna say? Yeah, I'm gonna keep the streaming on so I can work on my animations, but also accumulate viewership as well, so I can get my watch hours on for my 4,000 watch hours. But yeah, back to the animation. Shit, bro, stressed right now. Do what you think is right. Okay, okay. Thank you, thank you. You can stay here. You don't have to stay here the whole day. You don't have to stay here the whole day. I'm stuck with you. I mean, you're kind of like my main supporter right now. Like you're always here. You're always like telling me what to react. You're always here, like, oh, okay, try this, try that. You even came all the way to TikTok, and you didn't have a TikTok account. You had to make it. So I actually appreciate all the work you're doing right now. Really do. Oh my god. All right, let's get back into it. No more talking. I'm just gonna stream and animate.
Logged. Upon hearing this, Doctor set aside his TNS politely if he could be permitted to look over these objects. So being knowledgeable of such things, he could quite possibly put me in contact with several antiquarians of his acquaintance who might be interested in purchasing them.
I heard you said you were stressed. I have some
I saw
techniques
little reason to deny the
de-stress.
man who had so generously secured my
Honestly,
collection
I'm just
and
gonna go
helped
for a run
me
later on.
down into my cellar with his spindly arm.
I'll just go for a run later on. Either I go for a run, I'm gonna go to the gym. I'll go to the gym for like a few hours, come back home, probably like vape a little bit or like smoke something, and then sleep for like 30 minutes, then wake up and go back to animating. That's how I de-stress. Or if I want to really de-stress, like I will just like put on The Hunger Games and just watch it and chill. Like The Hunger Games is my go-to movie. That or the early 2000s King Kong movie. That's how I de-stress. I got other ways, but those are a bit explicit.
Stood back as he picked through the objects like a carrion crow looking for the juiciest parts of a rotten corpse. He ignored most
I'm
of the
definitely
objects,
open to
picking up
hearing
pistols and tossing them back to
those
before making his
ways
way
of
back to the
de-stressing.
cellar where, covered in a dusty sheet, stood a tall object that I had yet to bother with, which he revealed at once dramatically with a swift, sharp tug.
Okay, Excel, come on.
As the dirty,
Okay, let me just
gray sheet
focus.
fell inaudibly to the ground. The spectacle before us caused us both to pause, slack-jawed, for its horrid resplendence. For resting gently against the wall, there stood an object so magnificent and terrifying that neither of us could barely speak a word for several minutes, frozen as we were in complete awe. It was a mirror that stood some 7 feet tall, 3 feet wide. A perfect rectangle that was framed by the most amazing display of carved golden creatures, the like of which I had never seen. The frame was a collection of fish, crustaceans, octopods, and amphibians, all carved beautifully out of a spectral white gold. At either end of the mirror, there stood a large carving of what at first appeared to be a mermaid and a merman. On closer inspection, the faces of these characters were not fully human, being instead a horrible amalgamation of fish, frog, octopus, and man. They danced and frolicked along the mirror's edge in such a vivid manner that they appeared to sway, as if caught in an invisible breeze, causing my head to spin slightly if I looked upon them for too long. The mirror itself was equally bizarre. A green-blue tint was washed over the glass, and even in the dim light of the cellar, it was obvious that it did not fully reflect the room back at us. Instead, it distorted our reflections in a wavy, sloshing manner that made it appear like we were instead looking upon our faces from a murky pond or pool. The doctor stood forward and ran his hands over the gold frame. Then, shockingly, he gripped the tail of one of the carved mermen with great ease, simply bent it and pulled it off. The metal fin he then worked over in his hands, rubbing it between his fingers, where it molded and distorted like clay, and not as any earthly metal should have. The plastic metal he then rolled into a ball and placed in one of his pockets, then bent down with a grimace gesture and picked up the sheet to cover the mirror once more. He turned to me with clear concern etched over his gray face, and suggested that we leave the cellar immediately and make for the lounge.
Oh, this breathing technique. Yeah, yeah. I've done that breathing technique before.
Get me to sit with him. Bro, this
But
is
I usually do that when I'm about to sleep.
I'm like so hooked in.
I'm in. Yeah, this is so fun. This is just the way it's worked, the way the mystique of it. Ugh.
Just to go in, does it feel like the artifacts are changing people into things? Like, it seems like the dad knows that it changes people into things. He's pissed off by it. The mom is just kind of like, well, you didn't throw it away, did you? Or, she's upset because she doesn't want pieces of her history, or, like, I guess, like, amphibian
It could
family.
it could be, but it could also be that the dad's just dumb to it and didn't like how weird and like the shame that his brother-in-law brought on the family.
That's true.
But maybe the mom knows that there's a power to this kind of thing, and that's the kind of curse that's affected their family, and that's why it's now been passed off to him. But there's maybe the mirror looks like you're looking into water, like you're seeing your reflection in water. Maybe it can summon things, maybe it can change you. I think the doctor's about to explain, so I'll keep reading. But yeah, just want to comment. The reason I'm so locked in is because this is dope. I'm loving this. We have not got a story like this, I don't think, yet. This is great. The doctor then proceeded to tell me such a fantastic and macabre story that I became dazed, swooning on occasion at the strange mysteries he was inducting me into. He spoke as if my uncle's collection of books were factual, containing within them all the lore of mankind and the millions of years that had rolled on before our race made the slow climb down from the trees. He spoke of extraterrestrial invaders who had once called the Earth home, creatures that had seeped down from the stars and held dominion over our world while man's most distant ancestors were still billions of years from appearing on the cosmic stage. These dreadful beings, gods compared to humanity, had experimented with life and an accident had given birth to the ancestors of the human race. He spoke of the elder things, the old ones, the dreaded fungi of Yugoth, as well as the great race of Yith, all visitors to our small and lonely blue planet. He spoke also of the few remnants of this horrid mythology
Imagine your.
that can still be found.
Yeah, I do something similar. I do something similar to that.
This last point,
Just not very often. I just need to start doing it more often so I can stop being so stressed,
things of the water.
And I guess it's less about stress and more about anxiety. But that's a whole nother thing. But regardless, I still have some kind of control over it, and I'm glad for that reason. My only issue is I just need to keep doing it. I need to do it way more often
But also disgustingly intertwined with
so I can be less
that lived
stressed.
undying in the dim reaches
So that's
the
1,
ocean
2,
bed.
3, 4.
Swimming
1,
through the
2,
slowly
3,
dissolving ruins
4.
of dead, sunken cities such as the dread Yunthale, where the sun's rays fail to penetrate through the salty gloom. Oh, brother. Oh, honey. Oh, baby. What do we do? What do we do to deserve all this? Oh, it's so good. Oh, it's just so cool. It's so cool. I love it so much. That's one of my favorite things about, like, Call of Cthulhu. Like, how it talks about there's a city that, like, is so big we can't comprehend it and it lies beneath the ocean. And things like Cthulhu seem dead or they seem gone because they're just sleeping, but eons to us are a second to them. Like,
Yeah.
Oh, it's so good.
Time is completely different.
Yeah. He spoke of an ancient pact made with these deep ones that resulted in a mixed heritage of humans and something, and of the twisted families of New England who carried this taint within their blood. Marsh's being but one. He spoke too about the mirror in my cellar. Occasionally the deep ones had made such a gift to the tribes of humans who had worshipped them and their old gods as a means of contacting the people below the waves, should they ever be needed in dire times or upon the approaching times of their disgusting unholy rites. By the time the doctor had finished spinning
Okay,
his
so the head is gonna be here.
the hour
I'm gonna
dwindled,
try and track
far
the
too late
head
for him
so
to
I know
catch the
where it
last
is
train back to London,
when I
so,
get to this
with
frame.
little reluctance,
So that would
I
be
assured him that a bed
1,
would be available for him in my
2.
guest room.
So this would be 2,
Retired long before I did. I found it difficult
and
to sleep
then
at all after hearing about
3.
the so-called Marsh taint,
This would be
how it
3,
connected with things written down
and
centuries
then
ago
so to be
within books my
1.
uncle had kept
Okay,
adored.
1, 2,
Was Uncle Marsh looking for
1,
something within those
2,
books?
3,
Was looking for
4.
a cure to his condition, perhaps? Whatever he had uncovered from the tome, it had caused him to calmly walk
4.
beneath the waves of the freezing Irish Sea without so much
No.
as a second glance back at the life he once
No,
lived.
that won't work.
I do not know exactly
I have to make
the
it
time I fall
smaller.
asleep on the couch. A half-empty glass of brandy still cradled in my hand, but I was aware of what had stirred me from the depths of my slumber. It had been a crashing sound, like something heavy falling down, and it had greatly disturbed the silence of the house. Blinking the fatigue from my eyes, I immediately thought of the doctor and imagined, aged as he was, that he had left his bed in the night to make use of the facilities and had fallen in the dark. Dancing up the steps slightly, I found the door to my guest room open widely, and upon inspection found no occupant within. Indeed, the bed looked like he had not been touched at all. I continued my investigation, finding no one in any of the upper rooms. Hurrying back downstairs, I made for the kitchen and was greeted by a source of light emanating from under the door leading to the cellar. Pausing as I touched the door handle, I took a moment to collect my thoughts. Just what was the doctor doing down there? I quietly opened the door and winced as it made a light creaking noise. Whatever misdemeanor the doctor was performing within my home, I was eager to catch him at it red-handed and without excuse. As I walked slowly down those rickety wooden stairs, I noticed that the light coming from the cellar was not from the bulb I had fitted, but instead from the far corner. That it was no ordinary light, but a curious green gold that bathed the various artifacts and boxes in a thick phantom glow. The scene that greeted me was at once mesmerizing and terrifying, for the glow appeared to come from the mirror itself, which was lying flat upon the floor and not up against the wall as we had left it. The light immediately began to wane as I drew closer until it finally extinguished altogether, causing me to retreat to the stairs and turn on the electric light. As the orange bulb hummed into life, another scene invaded my senses and caused my heart to fly into a panic. As bundled up against the wall before me, there lay the doctor. His limbs stiff and his face frozen in agonizing, bulging-eyed fright. The doctor's lifeless hands were clawing at his own throat. A strange smell, like that of the rotting debris found on the beach, penetrated the whole room. With ultimate horror, I noticed a set of wet, inhuman footprints leading from where the mirror lay to where the doctor had expired. Carefully, I made my way down to the floor where the terrible prints lay. The water that composed them was thick, gluey, and possessed an awful stench of the sea that made bile rise in my throat. Suddenly, the mirror caught my eye, and I half fancied I saw the surface of it ripple like disturbed water, as if something had just decided to spy upon me before quickly retreating. I must have then fainted, for the whole room around me slowly disappeared in a cloud of gray and merciful oblivion, took me away from the cellar, the doctor's corpse, the smell of rotting driftwood, and the odious presence of the mirror. Oh man, that's so cool, Hunter. The mirror looked like water when it was underground, and there was something that surfaced in it. And it filled
There's
the
that
water.
great scene. I love when movies do that. Makes me think of that great spot in at the Mouth of Madness, with the John Carpenter movie, where at the end, like the mirror, she like puts her hand in it. It's like water, but they filmed basically like it's a black void of space, whatever. It's really great. We should play a little piece of it here, but it's so fucking good. Such a great visual tool too. Mirrors are so creepy.
The idea of something behind them is terrifying, right?
Yeah, of course.
Because they give the perception of space, even though nothing's there. So to imagine that there is a space, it's just one we can't see. It's like it plays on natural human experience. Like I see things through there. I know they're not real, but what if they are real?
Right.
Like it's fun. Of course, an investigation was carried out by the local constabulary, whom I had contacted as soon as my consciousness.
I think it's supposed to be consciousness, yeah.
Whom I had contacted as soon as my consciousness had returned from whatever restful place it had been slumbering. I was deeply worried that I would come under suspicion of foul play, but upon hearing that the doctor was paying me close to £1 million for some antique books, a fortune I would no longer be getting due to a dispute with his estate that I later became embroiled in, I was cleared of any wrongdoing. It was ruled that the doctor had suffered a heart attack and died of natural causes while looking around in the dank of my cellar. For whatever reason, the police force decided to conjure up in their follow-up report. I did not mention the mirror and lied when informing the police that the light of my cellar was on when I found the doctor's body. In truth, I had returned the mirror to its position, complete with covered sheet, before I had called the police, and had also taken the pieces of gold from his pockets. I did this in order to deprive the police of a motive, but also because I simply had no desire for the mirror to come under anyone's scrutiny. And I told a single living soul about strange, glowing, and disgusting seaside sketches attached to the grisly scene in my cellar, I had little doubt I would have been carted away and given a new home at Byron House. Thankfully, I still had plenty of time left before returning home, so I was able to come to terms with the loss of my dreams and ambitions that the doctor's money would have afforded me. It was particularly crushing to have had such a fortune laid before me, only to have it cruelly snatched away, seemingly by one of my uncle's possessions. I had purposefully kept the thought of the mirror and of those dread footprints far out of my mind. But try as I might, they returned again and again to me, mainly at night when lost in the abyssal embrace of hypnosis. Again and again, the grotesque pantomime played out in my dreams, occasionally with extra details that had either been omitted from the original memory due to shock or added anew from the depths of my disturbed imagination. Sometimes the doctor was still on the cusp of life, sputtering out a blood-drenched warning and pointing at the mirror desperately in his last thrashing moments. Other times I witnessed his body slowly being dragged into the mirror as its glass surface splashed and rippled like water. Finally, one terrible night, I had seen what I thought to be a huge, flabby claw sinking back into the surface of the mirror with deliberate, lugubrious? What is that?
Is that lugubrious? Lugubrious?
With deliberate, lugubrious intent.
Lugubrious.
I've never heard that word in my life.
Lugubrious.
Lugubrious. Lugubrious. Okay, lugubrious is an adjective that means causing or marked by an atmosphere lacking in cheer.
Red Bull.
Causing or marked by an atmosphere lacking in cheer.
Red
So
Bull.
yeah, Red Bull, thank you.
It gives you wings. Lugubrious.
Lugubrious wings. It gives you Luigi Breeze
Red
wings. It gives you lugubrious
Monster.
This dream sickness soon became an invading presence in my life, and even when the time came for me to return to work, I would often be so fatigued from the stress of my nightmares that I would finish work early or call in sick on the days after I'd experienced a strange session of the feverish night, haunted imaginings. I consulted my family doctor, who simply dismissed the dreams and prescribed me sleeping pills, which I soon discovered made my dreams more vivid, forcing me to discard them after just 2 nights. Yeah, great time. Desperate to starve off the midnight illusions that plagued my dreams, I took to consuming copious amounts of black coffee and spending my nights sat in my garden smoking cigarettes. However, this did little to alleviate my condition, as the glowing stars looking down upon me took on a far more sinister meaning since my talk with the doctor. I quickly grew fearful of their incessant twinkling. This period of restlessness lasted for nearly a month and resulted in me being fired from my job and losing what little human contact I had in my lonesome life. It was an irregular visit from my mother, however, brought me out of my malaise and sharpened my focus once more. I confided in her all those things that Dr. Glass had told me on that fateful night and watched her face remain unchanged throughout the entire revelation. Not so much a revelation for her, I felt. Surprisingly, she said very little and simply made a comment while sipping a cup of tea in my garden. Such things have been said about the Marsh family for years, as well as cursed Innsmouth, from whence our family came. She did admit that she knew very little of our family's roots and had almost no contact with relatives. She had practically raised herself, and it was my uncle who had cared for, spent most of his waking hours with their decrepit parents before they died. She then casually reminded me that a Marsh had bought my grandparents' house not long after I had been left it in my uncle's will, and I realized that I could perhaps alleviate myself of my uncle's possessions in the hopes it would calm my mind. Quick visit to Mr. Fisher, and I was furnished with the name Eli Marsh, some kind of distant cousin on my mother's side who had bought and moved into the rotting home my grandparents had dwelled within, and to which my uncle was left when they passed away. Not wishing to travel to Seascale on the chance that I would catch this relative at home, I instead sent a simple note detailing who I was, some details about Uncle Marsh's books, and a description of the mirror. I asked if he knew any other details of our family's history that could help to shed some light on the strange occurrences that happened to Dr. Glass and detailed the strange effects that the mirror had played out in my cellar that dreadful night. In response to my inquiry, a sparse letter arrived asking me to come visit him at my grandparents' home at my earliest convenience. I wasted little time in heeding the summons and boarded the train from the nearest station in Eastwish towards Seascale the next day. At Eli's request, I had things of the water securely tucked away in a briefcase along with many of my uncle's notes as I could carry. The train's journey was pleasant enough, with changes over at Manchester Piccadilly and then Barrow-in-Furness. Despite the usual overcast weather of northwest England, the countryside was still an open beauty to behold, and I allowed myself a few hours of respite as I drank in the dark green essence
Why
of
does
the
it keep lagging
untamed
on?
rolling hills
Don't
and
piss
feral
me off,
mountains.
please.
Eventually, the scenery gave way to the various villages and towns that precipitated the train's arrival in Seascale, and the greenery disappeared amidst the dull gray buildings and hotels of the seaside resort. Eli had no intention of meeting me at the station and had instead given me instructions to call upon him at any time of day at my grandparents' home. He had expressed a dislike of the daylight, and I imagined that he too must be a victim of the sinister wasting disease that had afflicted my mother's parents in so gruesome a fashion. I had intended to make more of a day for myself in town whilst visiting Eli, but the autumn clouds and light rain do little to vitalize a tourist hunger, and after a short 30-minute stroll around and a lunch at one of the many seaside cafes, I instead decided to make my way straight to the house on Reed's Avenue and see exactly what light my distant cousin could shed upon the macabre conundrum that had made its way into my life. Reed's Avenue was a street crowded by various bed and breakfast establishments and other tall, narrow buildings, nothing more than a simple row of heartless Edwardian constructions that overlooked the crumbling coastline of rolling sea. I paused several times and overlooked the benches on my way, allowing myself to fantasize morbidly over my uncle's suicide and final moments. That plump, naked, flabby body making its way to the water's edge with as much momentum as its master could muster, and then simply wade out to sea until his body finally gave into the cold grip of the sea, sank beneath the water. The wind around the coast was particularly ferocious, and it not only chilled me, but also carried upon it the seaside stenches of rotting crustaceans and slimy rocks, an aroma that caused my nighttime terrors to resurrect momentarily and persuade me to finally move along towards the home of Eli Marsh. The house was sandwiched in between two beds and breakfasts. A tall three-story building painted in a washed-out white with a rusting iron fence crowning the outside. Every single window visible was either boarded up or concealed with thick curtains. It appeared that Eli was a man who valued his privacy. Some simple stone steps led up to the red-painted front door, the only source of color found in the entire building. This was somewhat offset by the peeling paint that revealed a dull, cracked brown beneath. I was about to knock. I noticed a piece of card on the ground, held in place by a bottle of milk that had most definitely soured. Short message, or more accurately an order, scribbled upon it in a poor but strangely familiar script. Holding up the card, I opened the front door, which was unlocked as per the note's description, walked into the gloom of the narrow hallway.
Notes had to be written by the uncle, right?
That's what I think.
Because he's been looking at the notes and stuff for so long that he's like, oh, looks familiar.
The uncle might be alive.
Oh, the uncle's definitely alive. I think that he emerged from the ocean, left that thing, and went back probably.
Yeah. Like the outside, the interior of the home was much taller than it was wide, and the staircase presented before me appeared to lean oddly at the top, giving the illusion that the house was fatigued and resting upon its neighboring establishment for support. It was difficult to see much in the dark of the hallway. I tried to turn on the lights with a few flicks of the nearby switch, but to no avail. A doorway to my right led into what must have been a downstairs living room, and I proceeded to investigate. A bare wooden floor, and not a scrap of furniture to be found. This, coupled with the thick sheets that had been crudely nailed into the window frame, and were doing a superb job of keeping out the feeble light, was all the living room had to offer. I quickly established that this was not a home, it was a mausoleum. I was about to enter another room leading off from the back of my current whereabouts, kitchen perhaps, when a series of loud, sharp knocks startled me and immediately made me look upwards at the source of their location. I will admit freely that this disturbed me greatly, and I wondered if I had perhaps left reality behind and stumbled onto the pages of the apocryphal ghost story. You were 100% right. This reads exactly like Lovecraft.
Yeah.
With the way things are described in moments and stuff.
100%.
Nail on the head with that one. I froze like a rabbit confronted by the sight of a predator and waited in silence to see what would happen next. Again, the thumps pierced the silence I stood within, but this time I followed their source and stood at the bottom of the staircase, its thin, decayed carpet doing a poor job of concealing the dry rot beneath. Whatever courage I summed up must have come from the realization that I was here to see a member of my own family, not some moaning spirit wrapped in chains. I smiled to myself in an effort to banish away the fear that had coiled its way into my heart. Surprisingly, the stairs made little noise as I ascended them as quickly as possible, jumping 2 steps with my stride until I arrived at the landing. Several doors lay before me, but only one was open. From the room within, I could hear a series of low wheezes and finally a sickly, wet cough. With more than a little reservation, I knocked and gently pushed the door inwards. What greeted me was similar to the downstairs. Bare floorboard, underfoot, and a covered-up window frame. Although, that was not all to be found. It's 2 chairs, large and crimson, covered in dust, but placed in the center of the room. And sitting in one of them was a shadowy bundle of rags, worn clothing, and worn clothing that at second glance contained the body of a man. It gestured towards the vacant chair opposite. I reluctantly obeyed, placing my briefcase down, taking off my hat. I could see very little underneath what I presumed to be my cousin's clothing. Even his face was concealed with a scarf and a flat cap balanced ignobility upon his somewhat misshapen head. Words issued forth from my host's mouth, impossible liquid words that were punctuated with wet coughs and struggled breaths. There was movement beneath that scarf, but not the simple parting of lips. A series of movements from the neck area. Restless movement of something opening and closing to the rhythm of his speech. The only part of his body visible to me were the eyes. Huge, bulging eyes that stared at me unblinking and with focused malice. These bloodshot globes were not so much sat within his head as leaked out of their sockets. Some unseen force keeping their jelly from outright streaming down his face. Despite their obvious vulgarity, these repulsive gelatinous spheres were at once familiar and alien to me. The marsh look was obviously something I knew all too well, but to see it in such an advanced state and up close horrified me to my core. It took me several moments to recognize the words Eli was forcing out of his mouth.
The book.
He spoke, bandaged hands outstretched before me like a begging child. I nodded and picked up my case, clicking it open and passing him things of the water along with my uncle's notes. Produces a pencil and started to write on the back pages of my uncle's diary. checking over the tome for some kind of unspoken reference, and occasionally looking up at me with his flowing frog-spawn eyes. As he finished whatever notes he had written, he handed the books back to me, and we both simultaneously jumped as another series of bangs issued forth from the room above ours. He reached down to the side of his feet and produced a broom and lifted himself with great effort off the chair. With the bare end, he then struck the ceiling in response. I half fancied this some kind of coded message, but the series of strikes did not appear random, some kind of perverse hidden code. When another set of bangs responded to this, the suspicion was confirmed. Eli, seemingly satisfied with this, waddled back to his seat and slung his body back down in a way that was also somehow sickeningly familiar to me. Leaning forward, far too close for my comfort, he pointed upwards with his hand and gave a simple explanation.
You must forgive my sister. She has succumbed to our family's condition and is confined to a bed.
I think I gave a nervous smile and a few words of sympathy, but I was far too transfixed upon the awful fish oil smell that secreted from his breath with every word. Perhaps noticing my discomfort, he leaned backwards awkwardly into his seat.
Sit, cousin, sit. We have much to discuss, and my time in this world is fleeting. No doubt you have a dozen, maybe 100 questions dancing around the brain of yours. But you'll have to make do with what I tell you today. You got some answers from that doctor friend, but what does a stranger know of the affairs of a marsh? Only a marsh can help a marsh. Maybe a gentleman or a Walt or Hells, even an Elliot might be able to tell you what is in store for you. But you have me instead. I bet you're curious as to why our family left Innsmouth behind and came back to our ancestral home, aren't you? Well, you have these books. Books like these. Things of the water to thank you for that. Our great-granddaddy was a sorcerer, you see. Oh, and you may laugh at such a thing, but I tell you it's the truth. A great sorcerer who could conjure up all manner of gods from the sky and the sea, and have angels of Cthulhu answer his calls. Others grew fearful of the power he had. Other masters who had little power themselves, and wanted this for themselves, only interested in paying service to Dagon, or Hydra, or any other god. Granddaddy Marsh used the names of the great old ones himself, without any priest of Dagon present. They forced him out, chased him and his deep-born bride out of Innsmouth along with their children, and forbid them to ever return. Why didn't the Order of Dagon have them killed?
I've been a hairdresser for over 20 years. Pantene doesn't weigh your hair down. It doesn't leave it greasy. It is a must-have.
Who knows? Maybe they feared his power. Maybe they thought old Dagon himself would come to collect his due. Or the traitor. But it never happened.
Okay, so, first of all, you are an incredible voice actor.
Oh,
That
thanks,
was
man.
so
I like
stupid.
that.
that entire time I was like, I just like went into a trance, and I was looking at the fish man under the rags. Like,
Oh,
that
sick,
was-
man. Yeah, I tried to get a gurgly
that,
thing
that was
going.
that was so stupidly good. To follow up on that, how is it that you have trouble reading a text message if you have to just read text, but if you adopt a character's voice, you can read the cult and pragmaticians of Cthulhu and the granddaddy of March without a single break?
I don't know. I think I was pretty immersed myself, if I'm being honest.
You were so into it that you couldn't fathom saying a word wrong. Okay, yeah, again, this story is awesome. I love this. But to clarify what was being said there, so their family comes from a line of people who worshipped Cthulhu, right?
Yeah, obviously some kind of fish kind of people, whatever, that were practicing in some kind of religion, and some people would seem to be, they were greedy. And
A
only
sorcerer.
Sorcerer, but they were only worshiping certain gods and not Cthulhu as well, or whatever. So basically,
Yeah,
just
so,
Hydra and you know.
Others grew fearful of the power he had. Other Marshes who had little power themselves and wanted this for themselves. Not interested in paying service to Dagon or Hydra or the god. Granddaddy Marsh used the names of the old ones without any priest. So I assume he was supposed to use a priest. They forced him out, chased him, and his Deep One bride out of Innsmouth. So why did they have him killed? Who knows? Maybe they thought old Dagon himself would have come to collect his due on the traitor, but it never happened. So that's where their family comes from. And then you've got some more to go, so I'll shut up. But yeah, okay. Making sure I'm on the same page. He paused momentarily to catch his breath, and I watched as he struggled for several minutes before continuing his horrid monologue.
The mirror could be another reason. Granddaddy had made the thing himself as a way to commune with the gods of the sea and to lock in on his family who had made the change and swam beneath the waters outside Innsmouth. Who knows what the bargains he had made with the Deep Ones? I reckon Innsmouth folk and the Order feared another uprising like the war in 1846, so they act against him and just let his kin be. So the sea-scale he came, where he kept his books and said his prayer spells to Dagon and Cthulhu every Hallows Mass, and while purchased and carried on the Marshes line, making new deals with the Deep Ones through the mirror, and bringing in other families to mix blood with them and the old sea devils. Oh, and you'd be surprised by how many round these parts carry the blood of the Deep Ones in them, and how many make the change and swim to the depths of the Nth Canal to dance and frolic with Dagon in the dark. I'll be making that trip soon myself. Me and my sister will walk down to the water and keep on walking. Just like your uncle. My daddy did those years ago. I could see you looking more confused, cousin. Did you think that Sebastian Marsh had no kin other than you and your mother? He's a Marsh after all, and had to take a mate among the Deep Ones just like we all do. Just like your mother did. Your mother was already carrying you.
Oh, that's kind of sick.
Your mother was already carrying you and her when she met that man calling himself your father on the beach all those years gone by. You'll change. Just like I'm changing. Just like your uncle changed. Your mother doesn't seem to be making a change. But the blood of Dagon is stronger in our men, I guess. You just say those words I wrote down in that book, and you'll say them when and where it tells you to say them, and you'll get those answers you seek.
That's fucking sick, though. So his dad isn't even really his dad.
That's not his dad, no. His mom took a father from the Deep Ones.
Yeah. So that's also he's probably a bastard, and he knows that he's going to figure out that he's not his kid. That's why the dad's pissed.
Probably. Okay, so here's the thing. We've got the, we have, like, his family from Innsmouth was a sorcerer that called upon these gods, right? Mm-hmm. And then one time he did the ritual, one time his ancestor, his great-grandfather, whatever, did the ritual wrong, was forced to run away, but he made bargains with the Deep Ones. So it sounds like these bargains are that we will continue on your line, we'll continue on your people. Yeah. So they begin to have children with the Deep Ones, make more kids for them, then eventually those children grow up and then return to the sea. And it seems that's what's been happening to the family. That's what happened to his uncle. That's what happened to our narrator. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, his mom knows all of this. His mom had a child with one of the Deep Ones.
I think she wants him to, though. I think she wants him to turn. I think that's another reason why, too, she was so like, oh, well, you're not going to sell them, are you? Because inside of that book is the knowledge of how he can transform, and the spell can be completed to where he can return to the family. I think that's important to her.
Well, she also has to know that her son is half Deep One, half like a... What?
With the YouTube Music app, you can blend up to 30 artists into one big custom radio station, which means your thumb is now a tiny little DJ. Get YouTube Music Premium. Try 1 month free of charge.
Well, exactly. I think that she definitely knows. Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's also, I think that, or sorry to interrupt, I was going to say, I think that because men, it seems that men transform much faster than women. So what I'm guessing is
more pronounced than the men,
yeah, so what I'm guessing is she's like, oh, I need you to go because one day I'm going to join you whenever I'm fully changed as well.
Yeah. That's like, man, the way... This is the kind of thing across Lovecraft, but it's very well done in the story. I'm forgetting that we're reading a creepypasta that was written last year, not like a Lovecraft story, right?
This is the kind of flavor and shit I love.
But like the phrasing there is so good, where it's like you'd be surprised how many around these parts carry the blood of the deep ones, how many make the change and swim to the depths of the infinity, to dance and frolic with Dagon in the dark. What a way to describe walking to the bottom of the ocean, you know? Oh.
Yeah. Dancing with Day on the Dark is so hard. Also, too, just seaside towns, beach towns, especially this Irish water, if they're in Ireland or wherever. It's these things of, like, people re-entering their actual world from the beaches of, like, these landlocked towns and stuff. Really fun. Or ocean-locked towns, whatever.
Do you think Sebastian Marsh had no kin other than you and your mother? So that would mean that
Sebastian had multiple kids, is what I assume.
Yeah, and he had to take a deep one wife to have these kids. Yeah, interesting. Hunter, you're on a beach. If Fish Girl comes up to you, would you do it?
Oh, 100%. 100%.
If she looking tall, dark-haired, and green-eyed,
she be looking however, dude. I'm telling you, wet and glistening, dude. She's just coming out. You know, she opens her mouth and there's all kinds of like eldritch sounds coming out. I'm just like, my ass is the literal first beginning beats. I'm seeing that she's singing some kind of like hypnotic siren, right? Whatever. I'm thinking,
ooh, that works. That fucking works.
And I'm thinking 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Everybody in the club, let's ride. I'm just mambo number 5 the entire time. I'm gonna start dancing like I'm with Lou Bega, dude. That's what I'm thinking.
I mean, you gotta be out there. You gotta start singing with me. You gotta be like, oh, I bid farewell to the forest and the land. So you're like, and the bones in the ocean forever will be like. You're just going after that scaly.
Oh man, I'm trying to count them scales.
I'm trying to see if those scales talk back. You know?
Dude, I'm playing. No shit.
I'm playing tic-tac-toe on those things.
That's right. I'm doing some Morse code. I'm pushing some buttons. So, hey, we're pushing buttons again. That's what we're doing.
We're flipping switches, pushing. But everything got going on. We're gonna figure this out. We're gonna crack the code. Start speaking Cthulhu by the end of it.
No shit. Yeah, exactly. I'm gonna be rolling R's and all kinds of stuff, dude. It's gonna be unbelievable.
Okay. Anyway. He said nothing more, and I waited for several minutes, just in case fatigue had caused him to pause for breath. He did not say anything more on the matter. Perhaps knowing that what he had added to the diary was all I truly needed to know. As I pondered the last few months of my life, a series of horrid realizations began to creep over me, and I suddenly wished to be outside, away from the bundled menace before me. I managed to muster enough will to lift myself off the chair and pick up my belongings. He watched my every movement as I backed my way towards the door. As I slowly exited the room and began to descend the narrow staircase, one final sentence barked out at me from the obnoxious, fish-stenched room and chilled me.
Marsh blood is thick in your veins, cousin, and you best prepare yourself for the change.
These last words were met with more wheezing and coughing, but also guttural and mocking laugh. By the time I regained my senses, I was outside the house and underneath the gray clouds once more. I staggered back to the train station like a piece of debris caught in the breeze, and once the train was in full gallop back to Barton, I summoned up the courage to look over the additions Eli had made to the diary. The instructions were clear, but also baffling. A ritual of sorts. I hoped, perhaps vainly, that following through on my cousin's scribblings would grant me some measure of peace and closure. Upon returning home, I started to make the necessary preparations for unearthing the truth about the Marsh look, gathering the notes and formula outlined in Eli's notes. I had no wish to visit the gunner's cloth, to walk beneath the wych elms as the silver light of the full moon bathed all around me in a chilling glow, but I did. I no desire either to stumble or struggle through the mud and filth of the woodland on All Hallows Eve in the direction of my uncle's home. But this too I did. I had made all the preparations as instructed to me by Eli Marsh, whose handwriting had been so oddly similar to my uncle's. The mirror, Dagon's mirror, had been removed from my cellar and once again brought back to the crumbling cottage, placed on the floor of the large room just as it had been on that dreadful night that still haunted my dreams. Significance of the moon and date had clearly set down for me. Although I had the option of waiting for Walpurgis night in April to work the old magic of Innsmouth, simply could not wait that long for the truth. It had to be tonight. The moonlight was strong enough to illuminate my path to the cottage, but regardless, I brought along my torch and supplemented Luna's gaze with my own feeble cone of light. Through the blackness I shambled, making no effort to conceal my coming from the various woodland beasts who hunted during the hour of the wolf and beyond. I half fancied all manner of specters and phantoms awaiting me in the woods, ghost of little Maggie Hagan and Jamie Birtle, along with every other miserable soul claimed by the cloth formed before my vision, dancing in and out of my sight among the trees. Suddenly the cottage came into view, a leaning, rotting husk that looked more like a disused garden shed than an actual home. Surrounded by leaning wych elms and sitting in a circle of black, blasted earth, my uncle's home stood in defiance of the repugnant nature that desperately sought to reclaim the wooden structure. It was grown with disease, orange fungus, and furry rugs of moss. Insects gathered all around the cottage, feeding with indignity upon the fleshy pulp of the clinging mushrooms, occasionally pulling themselves away to dance frantically with the illuminated cone of my torch. The entrance to the sagging structure was not barred, and I entered into the main room of the cottage and was immediately greeted by the golden mirror laying flat upon the decomposed floorboards. Above, a crude skylight had been fitted into the flat roof. I say skylight, but it was nothing more than a trapdoor that had opened readily and eagerly once the single rusted iron bolt that held it in place had been relieved from duty. The ceiling door swung open, creaking like a walking corpse, and eventually came to a rest after swaying for a few seconds. A wash of moonlight came streaming through the opening of the mirror surface. Rather than reflect off the glass, the light instead beamed directly into the mirror, drawn into it by some unseen force that then expanded the light, illuminating the whole cottage so much that my torch lay forgotten on the ground by my feet. I dropped to my knees in horrid awe and unconsciously crawled closer and closer to the mirror's glowing edge. Once more the terrible forms of Father Dagon and Mother Hydra, carved in gold and glaring menacingly in my direction, came into view, and I hesitated slightly before finally resting my gaze upon the vision that had patiently been waiting for me. Vision hinted at by Dr. Glass and my cousin, a terrible legacy that even now must be swimming through my veins and transmuting my form with languid but irreversible taint. Had this been what Jamie Birtle had stumbled upon all those years ago? Had he seen the truth of Uncle Marsh's heritage and as a result suffered a mental shutdown caused by his feeble lizard brain rebuking the awful reality of the Marsh look? It is difficult for me to write down exactly what I saw in the mirror that night. For the sake of all humanity and for those who will come after, I will try. Now that is Lovecraft. That's right. I do not know if I can describe it, but I'm about to describe it.
This is totally indescribable, but here's a description.
It's incomprehensible. Horror was actually quite comprehensible. Here's a detailed analysis, point by point, starting at the beginning. By the time anyone finds and reads this, I will no longer be a resident of Arden. I'll be changed at home among the briny depths and salt-soaked stones of the deepest gulfs of horror imaginable. Oh. For I kneeled perplexed, transfixed at the same. Man, is this just a Lovecraft story? Just to read.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, he's like, this is he's definitely taking language and stuff, and this is all textbook Lovecraft. You know what I mean?
This is yeah. All right. For I kneeled perplexed, transfixed at the scene playing out before me in the ocean grotto where the fish things frolicked and swayed amid cyclopean ruins, dancing blindly and madly to a silent alien beat. Fungoid, flabby creatures prostrated themselves before the eroded edifices of Father Dagon and Mother Hydra, and to the colossal statue of Lord Cthulhu that towered over the whole sickly affair. Except the statue was not a statue. It was alive and moving, overseeing its bane subjects into their chaotic worship, a tentacular titan, pleased with the spectacle around it. They danced and copulated and tore each other to pieces as the assembly reached such hideous heights of frenzy that I was sure I would be sucked through the mirror and into the icy salt water of the unbelief. But this disgusting pantomime being played out before my senses paled in horror compared to the realization that one of the creatures possessed a visage so familiar to me that I mercifully passed out as my mind recalled its likeness. For the newest addition to the throng of the fish things were the face of my uncle Sebastian Marsh. He had sought the embrace of the Irish Sea, not in order to end his life, but instead to take his place among the deep ones, as all men who bear the Marsh name must one day do.
That is Dagon's Mirror! Awesome. This is the thing. Dagon's Mirror is a complete and total love letter to Lovecraft. I mean, this could be Lovecraft. This could be Lovecraft himself. I mean, this already reads a lot like, even Shadows over Innsmouth or Call of Cthulhu, all that kind of stuff. But I do think it's fun. But the thing, if you know anything about Lovecraft, is that the Necronomicon and, these things that the Cthulhu universe, it's all like him and his buddies writing this, and it's like collaborating in ways of it's showing up in other people's work and stuff. To see this is something that's like, it's cool because it adds to that tradition of adding on to the universe and like the kind of lore that is the like open-ended nature of Cthulhu, and the reason that I love Lovecraftian and H.P. Lovecraft stuff so much too is that, which I think Nick Lowe does really well, is this story could have been 10 minutes long, realistically. It's like, it could be way punchier, way more to the point, but it's all about the, like, almost nauseating sense of, like, flavorful, sweet verbiage that gets added into describing very minuscule things that makes the story so rich. Like, and it works very well in these Dagon things where things are kind of sickly and they're so unimaginable, and that's kind of the meme too. They're unimaginable, but he's helping you imagine what it would be, in some weird way. So all these towns, which even the town itself are, going back to his uncle's house, they almost feel like ruins in the ocean as well, right? They're all dilapidated. They're worthless, landlocked buildings that don't have any love because they're like, why would I give a fuck about upkeeping this place? Even the fungus growing on them is almost like moss in the ocean growing on something. It's really nice. And one thing I love too, just for my own personal taste, I just love just like artifacts, relics, things that are cursed or totally, in this case, the mirror, and that, things that you see back and it like just reflects back in some weird way or drives you mad. They're so incomprehensible. The madness just takes your mind immediately. I think is just awesome, and I love this shit. But I can see how people would be like, it was just grating, like it's too wordy. I think that I feel like it's very divisive or decisive.
If someone does not like this, I don't want to talk to them.
I get it if people are like, it's so, and also too, Lovecraftian stuff can be, I wouldn't say one note, isn't it? But that's just like, that's my favorite. I love it.
That was so fun.
Yeah,
sure. It's not like there were super deep character arcs and there wasn't like a ton of highs and lows and stuff. But Lovecraft's original stuff isn't that way. It's about the theme. It's about the concept. What I love about Lovecraft so much is most of his horror comes from the insurmountableness of it, that there is an entity that we can't even hope to understand, much less beat, right? And this entire story, Dagon's Mirror, is about a guy discovering that one day he will become this monster and from the day he was born, he was set to walk into the ocean and become a part of this ritual of darkness, right? And he sees it before it happens, and he is powerless to stop it. That is where the horror of it comes from. And it's everything that is pushing him in that direction that proves fighting against it's fruitless. That's where a lot of Lovecraft's horror comes from. And I think this story did a great job encapsulating that.
Yeah, I think that a story about basically it's following in your family's footsteps is undeniable. Like it's you can't escape it. It's much like the movie Hereditary. It's like you feel almost at times your life is already pre-planned. You know, everything that's happened, which is just kind of horrifying within itself. But even he has no. I think that one thing I like too is that our main character doesn't really try to fight it. He's just kind of like, it is what it is. You know, I think he understands that, which is nice. But I do like that Nick Lowe here, because one thing Lovecraft is too is, I would say, more often than not, a short story writer, and it's nice. I'm glad that it's like in the year 2024 that there's a guy still writing like a homage short story piece that would feel something similar that maybe Lovecraft would have written in the 30s or whatever. Really, really fun. I mean, I love this shit. It's like everything I love. Recommendations movie-wise, if you guys haven't seen any of Stuart Gordon's shit, like Reanimator, fucking, From Beyond, even they have a Dagon movie. It's horrible. It's so cheesy, but I love it so much. It's great. Tons of Fish People, if you like that. And even like movies like The Void. And that kind of stuff. There's so much great. It's influenced so much of media, and like not even just storytelling, music, all kinds of shit. It's really, really cool. So, big 2 thumbs up for me. I had a great time with this one.
I'll also say this: I went to Nick Lowe's creepypasta, and his 2 other stories, Shamblers in the Attic and the House of Dead Gods, are both set in the town of Barton.
Okay, so yeah,
it's all like
nice.
Tied into each other's stories.
Sure.
So
we'll have to read those someday.
Yeah, well, we need to read those, I think. If you all like this at all, I think we need to read those. I love that story. It was awesome. It caught the vibe of Lovecraft so well for me, and I love that kind of horror, and I think it's so fun. It's so well done. It's like a modern mythology. It's great.
Yeah, well, it's modern. It's more modern fairy tales. Like that's really like a lot of the time that's what. You really hit the nail on the head earlier, I think, by saying that it reads like a grim fairy tale, because it is. And even, like, it reads a little bit like Edgar Allan Poe stuff, too. That kind of, like, very grim, dark.
Well, that's really
gothic,
like the early... Yeah, Gothic, exactly. That's really like the earliest versions of Gothic, or like, macabre literature. It was taking, like, the tones and, like, themes of fairy tales and then making them morbid. And that's what, like, Lovecraft did for a large part, but then he gives it this bigger mythos and lore and stuff, and the old ones, and it's like such a, it is what cosmic horror is, right? It's where it comes from.
Yeah, and I mean, even looking at Edgar Allan Poe, which Lovecraft was heavily inspired by, Edgar Allan Poe and Lovecraft, it's kind of funny. It's like, this is going to sound so cringe, but it's like, it's so cringe to say, but they were doing, like, essentially what online horror stories are doing now. Like, they were the little bite-sized things that you would read to get scared in public magazines or papers and stuff. Like stuff like that. To where it's just interesting. It's like history repeats itself in such a fun way, and it's cool that the Cthulhu mythos and just the vibe of this unknown thing that even today, after 100 years later, the ocean is still so horrifying.
Such a fun
and it's
way to adapt it. Gosh,
it's just such a thing where I feel like it's so evergreen. It'll stand the test of time more than a lot of stuff. So huge shout out Nick Lowe. Really fucking love this one, man, for real. I can't wait to read the other stuff. I was totally hooked. Sorry for my lack of commentary on this episode too, man. I was just so
No, I mean I was hooked in too. I was clocked in for that one. Yeah, that was great. Once we got going on it, it really got going. That was great.
Yeah.
I loved it.
Cool. Well, guys, thank you so much. If as always, if you haven't been listening audio-wise on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, please consider checking us out there. It really does help us out and give us a nice rating. It means the world. Until next time, y'all, stay creeped.
Stay creeped, and if you find out that you have to be a fish person at the bottom of the ocean with Cthulhu forever, that sucks. But hey, if you see a girl wash up on the beach who's a fish person, you're gonna go, okay, bye.
I'm gonna take a quick break. I'm gonna keep the live going, but I'm gonna go get some food. I haven't eaten anything all day, and then I'll be right back. While I'm gone, I'll just let my Kaido versus Shanks fight play in the background. There we go. Okay, I'll just let this one play. This way. Okay, I'm back. So I have to go buy something real quick. I'm gonna end the live, then I'll start it again later on. Or I might just take your advice and just don't do a live and just grind the shit out and then show you guys later tomorrow. But I'll make my decision later. Till then, I'll see you guys some other time. Fucking hell, I'm out of breath. Whew. All right, see you guys in a bit. Bye. Bye. Yeah, let's cancel this. And there we go.